The Cuban thaw was the warming of Cuba-United States relations that began in December 2014, ending a 54-year stretch of hostility between the nations. In March 2016, Barack Obama became the first U.S. president to visit Cuba since 1928. On December 17, 2014, U.S. President Barack Obama and Cuban leader Raúl Castro announced the beginning of the process of normalizing relations between Cuba and the United States. The normalization agreement was secretly negotiated in preceding months, facilitated by Pope Francis and largely hosted by the Government of Canada. Meetings were held in both Canada and Vatican City. The agreement would see the lifting of some U.S. travel restrictions, fewer restrictions on remittances, U.S. banks' access to the Cuban financial system, and the reopening of the U.S. Embassy in Havana and the Cuban Embassy in Washington, which both closed in 1961 after the breakup of diplomatic relations as a result of Cuba's close alliance with the USSR. On April 14, 2015, the Obama administration announced that Cuba would be removed from the United States state sponsors of terrorism list with no congressional action to block this within the permitted time period. Cuba was officially removed from the list on May 29, 2015. This marked a further departure by the United States from the Cold War conflict and its strain on Cuba-United States relations. On July 20, 2015, the Cuban and U.S. interest sections in Washington and Havana were upgraded to embassies. On June 16, 2017, President Donald Trump stated that he was canceling the Obama administration's deals with Cuba, while also expressing that a new deal could be negotiated between the Cuban and United States governments. On November 8, 2017, it was announced that some travel restrictions which were loosened by the Obama administration would resume, and that fresh restrictions would be imposed on direct financial transactions with certain businesses belonging to the Cuban Armed Forces and Interior Ministries and would go into effect on November 9. Further changes were made in 2019, but many of the changes made in 2015 remain in effect. In May 2012, it was reported that the U.S. had declined a spy swap proposed by the Cuban government, wherein the remaining three of an original group of Cuban prisoners the U.S. had convicted of espionage known as the Cuban Five, in prison in the U.S. since the 1990s, would be returned to Cuba in exchange for USAID contractor Alan Gross. Gross had been imprisoned in Cuba for providing illegal cell phone chips of a type used by Kia agents, which are designed to evade detection. In addition to computer equipment, satellite phones, and internet access to Cuba's Jewish community. Despite initial U.S. refusals, the prisoner swap eventually took place in December 2014 following the president's announcement of intent to move towards normalized relations. In addition to Gross, the swap included Rolando Serraf Trujillo, a Cuban who had worked as an agent for American intelligence and had been in a Cuban prison for nearly 20 years. Additionally, in early January 2015, the Cuban government began releasing a number of imprisoned dissidents, as requested by the United States. On January 12, 2015, it was reported that all 53 dissidents had been released. The prisoner swap marked the biggest shift in White House policy towards Cuba since the imposition of the embargo in 1962, and removed a key obstacle to bilateral relations. Since the exchange, Gross has become a vocal advocate of the normalization of relations, even offering to visit Cuba again in support of such a result. Although the Cuban trade embargo can only be ended by the U.S. Congress, the Obama administration took executive action to ease some restrictions on travel to Cuba by U.S. citizens, as well as restrictions on the import and export of goods between each country. In his 2015 State of the Union address to Congress, Obama called on lawmakers to lift the embargo against Cuba, a message he reiterated in 2016. In February 2015, Conan O'Brien became the third American television personality to film in Cuba in more than half a century. In May 2015, the Minnesota Orchestra performed several concerts in Havana. the first professional U.S. orchestra to play in Cuba since 1999. Major League Baseball held talks about playing spring training games in Cuba in 2015, but lacked time to arrange them. MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred said on March 19, 2015, that the league would likely play an exhibition game in Cuba sometime in early 2016, and on March 22, 2016, the Tampa Bay Rays played an exhibition game against the Cuban national team at Estadio Latinoamericano in Havana with Presidents Obama and Castro in attendance. Sun Country Airlines began operating charter flights between New York's John F. Kennedy International Airport and Havana's Jose Marti International Airport in March 2015. On May 5, 2015, the United States granted approval to 4 companies to offer chartered F.